So today I'm back working on the Galant Coupe. Last time I was working on the engine bay, tidying things up, getting it ready and stripping it back. And today it's all about getting this into there. So this is an 87 Sigma Mitsubishi. It's got the 2.6 litre Astron 4G54 engine in it, and it's got a 5-speed manual, which is awesome. It's going to go beautifully in the Galant. Now, I physically know that the engine is going to fit in the Galant. It's been done a million times before. Maybe not a million, but it's been done plenty of times before, and no issue there. What I'm not so sure of is whether the mechanical fan will fit, and more importantly, whether the 5-speed gearbox is going to fit. From reading that I've done, I'm by no means an expert on any of this, so if you are, please correct me where I'm wrong in the comments or whatever. But I believe that there's two types of 4G54s. There's a narrow block and a wide block. I think that the narrow and wide is just referring to the bolt pattern where the bell housing meets up to the back of the motor. Not sure, but I'm not sure what this one is. I'm not sure what the difference is between the wide and the narrow. But what I'm most concerned about is the little tunnel here on the Galant. I'm not sure if if this gearbox is going to fit, and if it's not, I guess we'll be modifying the tunnel. I'm also not sure if the 5-speed shifter, where it's going to come through on the floor, like even if the gearbox fits, is the shifter going to be in the right spot? This was a manual car previously, so it's got a clutch cable there, which is probably no good, but the Sigma over here uses the same style. So yeah, I'm going to try and harvest as much as possible from this car. Radiator, it's got an aircon. I'm not sure what the direction there is, but yeah, definitely the radiator, the cooling system, all of the intake, exhaust, all of that will be going hopefully into the Galant if it all fits. So yeah, those who aren't familiar with 4G54s and the Astron engines, from the little bit of research I've done, these were fitted into these Sigmas. Later version, the very early versions of Magna's got these in a front-wheel drive configuration, and they had EFI on them. Some of these Sigmas had turbos, and there was also Starions and Scorpions received these as well, and some forklifts. So this was an engine. Oh, and Pajeros also received this. Some of the early 90s Pajeros, the short wheelbase ones, I think they received these engines too. So yeah, really versatile motor. Went into a lot of Mitsubishi applications in the 80s and 90s. But there's a lot of possibility too. Like there's factory EFI gear and there's factory turbo gear. So that could be pretty exciting. You get all that stuff together and put it in the little Galant. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself.
You seem surprised.
Time to rip in and start pulling the Sigma apart, harvesting what we need. For interest sakes, I've measured between the firewall and the rad support. It's about 800 millimeters. And then between the two shock towers, it's about 820. So that's on the Sigma. Then coming over to the Galant, between the firewall and the rad support, it's about 770. And then between the shock towers, it's about 760. So yeah, about 40 millimeters shorter. and 60 or 70 millimeters narrower. Alright, so that's everything up top disconnected, radiator out, disconnected the air conditioning, heater hoses, all of the ignition. Yeah, everything that I can get access to from the top is done. So now I'll jack it up in the air, get underneath it and disconnect the clutch from the gearbox, speedo sensor, tail shaft, exhaust, things like that, and then it should be ready to be liberated from the Sigma. All right, so everything under the car except for the gearbox mount is done. So now it's I want to disconnect the shifter from the inside. I could have got it from the bottom, but I would have probably had to brutalize it a little bit, and this is all going to be kept. So yeah, I'll pull the center console out, and it's not a bad little console actually. I'm not sure it's going to work in the Galant, but maybe something else. But I'll try and pull that out without hurting it too much, and yeah, disconnect the shifter here, and then it should be ready to drop the gearbox mount, undo the engine mounts, and then lift it all out. Well, there we have it. It's liberated. It's also puking some of the worst looking trans fluid ever on my floor, which is awesome. Just having a quick look down here at the Sigma. It all looks very similar with mounts and all that. It's just the tunnel, like I said earlier, that's got me a bit concerned. What we're talking about is that versus that on the Galant. Anyway, these engine mounts that are in the Sigma look much nicer than the ones in the Galant, so I might quickly swap them out if they go. They look the same, but they could be slightly different. But if they fit, I'll bolt them in, and then we'll go about trying to swing all this into the Galant. Massive fail. Had to pull it back out again. I couldn't get it to clear. The head was hitting here and the gearbox was hitting on the steering linkage, which I've now just undone it from the idler and from the pitman arm, and now it's dropped down out of the way. So the gearbox should be able to go in and clear now. But that was a huge fail. Man. Whew. Massive win. Engine's in, sitting on the factory engine mounts on both sides, which is huge. Aircon compressor clears the battery tray. I don't think this is getting aircon, but all the same. Plenty of clearance to the firewall. Tunnel clears. The shifter is in the perfect spot. That's the 5-speed shifter there, and the factory hole in the Galant floor. And then underneath, this is where things get really strange. That there is the Galant factory cross member. Bolts up to the rails on either side. And that 5-speed gearbox is sitting in the perfect spot. It's going to need really minor mods to make it work, but I've got the cross members bolted up now and the gearbox is sitting on it. But if you look up there, you can see there's a gap of, I don't know, probably an inch between where the 5-speed rear mount that was in the Sigma sits and then where the Galant cross member is. So the solution is pretty simple. Unbolt the cross member, pull it out. This here is the Sigma rear cross member for the gearbox. So I'm going to section this and then just buzz it in here, weld it into this in the correct spot, and then that'll be done. So that'll be using Galant or Sigma engine mounts because they're the same, and then it'll pick up the rear gearbox crossmember factory Sigma mount, and the only thing that'll be modified is the crossmember. But like I said, it's only a very small mod, not difficult at all. But I just can't believe how universal all this stuff is. I thought that this gearbox was going to be a lot longer than the factory Galant 4-speed, but I don't know, it appears to be sitting in the same spot where the 4-speed would sit. So I don't know, huge win. Massive win, actually. I was semi-geared up to cut the tunnel out of the Sigma and weld that in, but completely not necessary. This is, yeah, this all bolts straight in, which is super cool. But yeah, big day. And yeah, mega progress. Super happy at the moment. So I think it's probably a good spot to end it. Thanks heaps for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have. This has been a real milestone. I'm, yeah, pretty pumped. Ready for a beer.